1893, a spiral in the sky and the airship vanished. In 1893, Saint-Cloud, outside Paris, smelled of varnish, gas, and rain. Crowds pressed to a rope while mechanics in blue smocks tested seams with brushes of soapy water, searching for the treacherous wink of a bubble. The airship Ariadne, silk envelope lacquered with dope, a keel of ash and steel hoops, twin screws driven by a petrol motor, hung from her mast like a bell about to be rung. Her builder, Etienne Vallet, wrote figures on his cuffs. Her aeronaut, Madame Clara Boulanger, checked the basket with a patience that had saved more lives than bravery. On the table beside the tools lay a pigeon basket, a barograph with a paper coil, a compass that had never told a lie, and a leather-bound log waiting for weather to write in it. The plan was immodest and therefore modern, a demonstration run to Amiens and back before dusk, proving that air could be persuaded into timetable. Telegraph clerks along the northern line had instructions to log the passage. Gendarmes had instructions to keep children from climbing roofs. Vallet's rivals arrived with opera glasses and condolences prepared for either outcome. Ariadne rose at 10 past noon under a sky of statuary cloud. The petrol motor stuttered, then found its confidence. The screws drew a slow spiral on the air. The crowd exhaled like an organ finding wind. For a mile, she obeyed the maps drawn in men's heads. Then the wind remembered itself and veered. The envelope's netting sang, a harp heard only by linen, and the nose yawed north by a degree that multiplied. Boulanger jettisoned sand. The ship steadied. Vallet signaled with a small red pennant the way sea captains once spoke to shore. The rope, wet from an earlier squall, dripped a private clock onto the grass. From the riverbank, a boy sketched the shape the airship made as it dwindled, a thin line turning on itself. His pencil wrote what the morning had not, a spiral. In the log, Boulanger, less poetic, called it drift slight, corrected. The barograph took no position. It only kept time. By Beauvais, the sky had grown a new skin, high, pearly, indifferent. Ariadne crossed barley fields, casting a shadow like a cipher. Telegraph needles clicked her progress station by station. At Froissy, a postman lifted his cap to a craft he could neither deliver nor return. In the gondola, the motor beat a steady measure. Boulanger trimmed with the calm of a bookkeeper. One sack of sand, then another, each fall marking a private bargain with gravity. At Saint-Just, a farmer pointed with his pipe. The airship had begun a slow turn against instructions, a courteous circle that did not alarm so much as instruct. Vallet adjusted the rudder. The circle widened. The barograph's pen sketched a staircase. Climb a little, level, climb, as if the air itself were composed of risers. A smear of cloud grazed the envelope. Moisture made the dope shine like oil. Past noon, a strange tidiness took hold. The spiral narrowed, not in panic, but with the patience of a child winding twine. Witnesses disagree about the moment. The telegraph does not. At 12:47, the clerk at Montdidier sent airship in view, behaving oddly. At 12:49, the clerk at Moreuil sent nothing because the wire fell silent for reasons not technical. On the road below, a carter heard a tone like a glass, sung round with a wet finger, and felt the hair on his hands lift as if a storm had adopted him. Boulanger released the first pigeon with a note pinned to its leg. Valve bulky, slight rotation, will descend to test. The bird understood Paris better than valves. It went home as heroes go home, by refusing to be clever. The second bird would learn a harder lesson. Ariadne's motor labored, coughed, resumed. A glimmer of blue fire went round a stay as politely as St. Elmo might touch a ship's yard and not linger. Valet slapped the wire with a rag and swore himself back to reason. They were still climbing. The first message reached St. Cloud at 3. A pigeon panting like a small machine, a paper strip damp. Valve lever free again, descent attempted, oscillation persists. The barograph drum, collated with brass and wrapped in ruled paper, was found hours later in a beet field near Rosières. The mounting screws still attached, the pen having drawn a neat sawtooth that tightened into a coil. The farmer who found it said the thing hummed like a cricket until his wife set it on a cool windowsill and made it behave. At Le Tréport, the lighthouse keeper mentioned, in a line of small hand in his log, a luminous thread high inland, as if a lamp had been carried round and round behind gauze. The Coast Guard at Cailleux saw nothing but weather. Over Picardy the wind dithered. Over the Somme it made up its mind. Shortly after 2, women washing sheets at a ford stepped back from their work as if the river had leaned up to listen. They could not say what they heard. They agreed it was single. A clockmaker in Corby claimed an instrument in his window, aneroid, honest, sagged and rose out of keeping with the town's still air. A shepherd swore his dog pointed at the sky and would not be persuaded to look down again until evening. In a hedge, a boy found a length of silk cord with a copper clip, still warm in memory, if not in fact. On it, a thumb's width of varnished fabric as gold as a saint's first thought. At 3:12, a second pigeon arrived, this one wing-sore and short of charity. Its note was grim and tidy. Valve jam recurs. We are light, motor steady. Rotation increases with venting. We'll seek low field. It was signed CB, which was not customary, but felt like testimony. By then, the sky over the chalk quarries had become a page with one sentence repeated. The same white path drawn again and again, tighter each time as if the air were reminding itself of a rule. A clockmaker in Corby claimed an instrument in his window, aneroid, honest, sagged and rose out of keeping with the town's still air. A shepherd swore his dog pointed at the sky and would not be persuaded to look down again until evening. In a hedge, a boy found a length of silk cord with a copper clip, still warm in memory, if not in fact. On it, a thumb's width of varnished fabric as gold as a saint's first thought. At 3:12, a second pigeon arrived, this one wing-sore and short of charity. Its note was grim and tidy. Valve jam recurs. We are light, motor steady. Rotation increases with venting. We'll seek low field. It was signed CB, which was not customary, but felt like testimony. By then, the sky over the chalk quarries had become a page with one sentence repeated. The same white path drawn again and again, tighter each time as if the air were reminding itself of a rule. Search begins as arithmetic and ends as weather. Gendarmes on bicycles followed the line of reported sightings as if chasing a rumor down a ledger. Railwaymen walked the sleepers, eyes on ditches and hedgerows for the courtesy of debris. The prefect wired Boulogne to hold cutters ready. Fishermen nodded because readiness is the only honest superstition the sea respects. Night gathered without admitting it had. The motor's beat, if anyone truly heard it, hid in the common thrum of mills and carts. At Saint-Valery, a boy on a seawall pointed at nothing with the authority particular to boys and moved grown men to look. Out on the flats, a bell buoy tolled to itself and received no answer. Inland, lanterns showed in orchards where prudent landowners had decided to name their trees in light in case the sky came down among them. A telegraphist at Longueuil swore later that the wire sang before it spoke, a thin vibration like metal learning a hymn. Wreckage, when it came, refused to behave like wreckage. No great envelope dropped like a flayed skin across fields. No gondola lay broken in a melodrama of splinters. Instead, the river Somme consented to return a small chair back, ash, varnish abraded, 3 brass screws bright where they had worn against a strap. A woman washing linen knew it for what it was because some shapes tell their own story. Near Péronne, a shepherd found a panel of doped fabric tight on its frame, as if a window had been cut from air and left leaning on thistles. The fittings were French, the smell indelibly of petrol and pine. The barograph drum at Rosières proved a better witness than men. Its final turns showed pressure falling stepwise and then smoothly, the pen drawing curves that approached one another in a lover's patience. A mechanic traced the spiral with a fingertip and found his skin shining with the faintest resin, as if the ink itself had learned to be oily. In the pocket of the recovered chair, a sliver of paper survived, a page from the calf-bound log. Boulanger's hand. Valve lever still stubborn. Static about rigging. Will try vent and turn into wind. The line broke where water had gnawed it. Pilgrims of curiosity arrived and left with polite lies. A priest blessed the river and was troubled to find it exactly itself afterward. Children drew corkscrews and circles on slates until their teachers scolded them into straight lines. Valet kept the chair and the barograph under glass because proof, like grief, prefers frames. Paris learned to tell the story as comedy one night and as caution the next. The heir, which had been asked for timetable, kept none. A rumor said a shepherd on the Crow had seen a brilliant skin climb like a soap bubble and vanish with the 2-note sigh a child makes when given a lesson too late. Theories stretched themselves like cats in sun and convinced their owners they had worked. Engineers spoke of resonance, twin screws setting up a standing twist in the long body of gas, the netting answering, the keel agreeing, the whole craft becoming an instrument that played one note too well. Physicists preferred electricity, dry silk, woolen uniforms, spinning screws, leather belts, whole rainless acres of friction. St. Elmo's friendly foxfire along the stays could, if offered hydrogen, turn doctor to arsonist in the gentle blink of a blue ring. Others blamed the valve gear. A sticking relief could trap Ariadne at a lightness that permitted only ascent, the spiral a courtesy of wind meeting an obedient hull. But the barograph shows descent, said the careful. Then oscillation, said the certain, and drew a diagram in which the airship rose and fell like a chest breathing, each cycle tighter until a last inhalation became decision. A meteorologist suggested Kelvin Helmholtz billows, great sky waves whose crests roll upon themselves like scrolls, into which a light craft might lodge as a seed lodges in a groove. The seed goes where the groove goes. Valet took a wrench to his rival's opinions and found no purchase. He stood in his hangar and listened to the wind play the spare envelope's folds. In the corner, the recovered barograph ticked over to a fresh hour and seemed embarrassed by the ease. He opened Boulanger's calf-bound log to the page his thumb knew without looking and found the word she had never used before or after: spiral. In cafes, men pinched the air with their fingers, showing how a craft could turn into its own wake and tie weather into knots. In newspapers, the same drawings migrated between columns, changing labels to match the day's certainty. In the silence between explanations, the single note some had heard returned, sometimes from wire, sometimes from bone. It asked no questions. It made a shape in the mind a compass could not measure and a timetable could not keep. Saint-Cloud put Ariadne's chair and barograph in a glass case. Children pressed noses to the pane and left vows shaped like breath. Once a year, the city released white kites painted with a single line that turned upon itself. The kites learned a disciplined grace, and then, as wind requires, their own minds. Valet grew careful, then small, then a line in a directory. Madame Boulanger's family kept her letters. The pigeons, having outlived duty, learned gardens. Pilots who came after pretended not to be superstitious and touched wood anyway. They installed better valves, better ropes, better engines that made promises in metal. They added wire brushes to tame static, and little chains to drain the secret lightning that men produce when they rub their ambitions against cloth. The sky forgave or forgot, which is the same mercy from below. Airships would have other tragedies with more debris and less music. In a museum now, the barograph's paper coil still shows the elegant indecency of the last minutes. Steps turning to curve, curve to spiral, spiral to the steady line that means either sea level or heaven. Guides tell the story in two manners, one for school children and one for those who have kept a ledger of their own. Outside, on clear days, a certain kind of cloud writes a tidy S high over the suburbs, and phones come out for photographs that will not convince anyone who was not there to want to be. A clerk once added a line to the official file. Loss prevents schedules. Recommend postponements in fog. It remains, earnest and insufficient. Each May a woman in a blue coat leaves a paper spiral under the glass and does not sign it. The note curls upon itself as if obeying an old order. No voices then, only the sound the envelope netting made that day. Linen becoming instrument, wind becoming memory, a single patient tone folding the air into a shape that still turns, slowly, where no timetable can carry it.